अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मैं हूं मुर्तज़ा डार। आज हम बात करेंगे अमेरिका में होने वाले इंतखाबात के हवाले से। 3 नवंबर को अमेरिकी अवाम तय करने जा रही है कि अमेरिका का अगला सदर कौन होगा। इस वक्त मौजूदा सदर अमेरिका के डोनाल्ड ट्रंप हैं। इससे कबल डेमोक्रेटिक पार्टी थी जो बरसर इक़्तिदार थी, जिसको बराक ओबामा ने 2 मुख्तलिफ अदवार में सदारत के मनसब पर रहे और उसको अच्छे तरीके से, आसान तरीके से चलाने की भरपूर कोशिश की। ट्रंप एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को जहाँ बहुत सारी चैलेंजेस का सामना था, वहीं पर एक बड़ा चैलेंज जो है वहाँ पर लिसानियत थी। लिसानियत के साथ साथ बड़ा चैलेंज इकॉनमी का था। इसके अलावा बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस थे, जिसमें एक बड़ा चैलेंज सिक्योरिटी की खित्ते के अंदर सूरत हाल भी थी। ट्रंप ने कुछ चीज़ों में अच्छा परफॉर्म किया, कुछ चीज़ों में उन्होंने बुरा परफॉर्म किया। इस सारी परफॉर्मेंस का असर उन पे, उनकी पार्टी पे आने वाले इलेक्शंस में होगा जो 3 नवंबर को अमेरिका में होने जा रहे हैं। हमने इस हवाले से मुख्तलिफ प्रोग्राम्स किए। हमारे साथ प्रोग्राम में अमेरिका से मौजूद एनालिस्ट हैं जो आज हमारे स्टूडियो में मौजूद हैं। आज उन्हीं से हम दोबारा गुफ्तगू को आगे बढ़ाते जाएंगे और कोशिश करेंगे आप तक के तमाम इन्फॉर्मेशन पहुँचाएँ जो मैक्सिमम आप लोगों को हेल्प कर सके अमेरिकी इलेक्शन को समझने में और ये जानने में कि कौन सा अमेरिकी सदर जब सिलेक्ट होगा तो पाकिस्तान के हक़ में बेहतर होगा या पाकिस्तान के ताल्लुकात उससे मज़ीद बेहतर और अहसन तरीके से चल सकते हैं। प्रोग्राम में हमें ज्वाइन किया है जो गोमेज़ ने। जो गोमेज़ जो है पॉलिटिकल एनालिस्ट हैं, लॉबिस्ट रहे हैं वो ट्रंप के लिए, और इसके साथ साथ अभी ट्रंप के साथ साथ बराक ओबामा की जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है उसके लिए भी बोथ साइड्स पे जो है वो दोनों साइडों पे काम कर चुके हैं। सो वो डोनाल्ड ट्रंप की एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को एडवाइस करते रहे हैं, बराक ओबामा की जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है उसको भी एडवाइस करते रहे हैं, और दोनों साइडों के जो पॉलिटिक्स है उसको भरपूर तरीके से समझते हैं, इंटरनल और एक्सटर्नल। सो वेलकम टू द शो जो once again.
Thank you, Murtaza. Good to be here.
Great. So the conversation I would like to expand today is again more about understanding U.S. better, the policies inside U.S. and U.S. relations with the other countries. Okay, so let's begin with this challenge thing of rigging election. For example, if the President Trump wins or Joe Biden wins or anyone who wins, the other person who is losing the elections goes to the court like Supreme Court, or they come up with a claim that these elections are rigged, everything is blunted, and we've been put on a sideline just to lose this election and all of that, with all these blames and claims. So how do you think that the situation will be in US?
Well, in the 2020, the election that's coming up, it seems that President Trump is really going to do everything he can and use every arrow in his bag of quivers to make it seem as though this might be a rigged election. He's already said that these mail-in ballots that are being utilized in various states are basically phony ballots that are being sent out to people who aren't even registered to vote, or to people who aren't in the country illegally, or are being sent out to dead people. So he's saying all of this stuff. Democrats maintain that the mail-in ballots are necessary because they don't want to risk the lives of people going out to actually cast their ballot in person, because the coronavirus is surging in the United States. So because of this unique situation with so many mail-in ballots, where American citizens for the first time are having to send in their vote through the U.S. Postal Service, through the mail, President Trump believes that this is going to cost him the election. Democrats, on the other hand, think that this is actually going to motivate more people to vote, because frankly, it's a lot easier to vote if all you have to do is slip your vote in the mailbox versus actually walking down or waiting in line to do so.
Right. So, okay, let's come to another scenario. Like, for example, the understanding I have is that once the polling is done in different states, right, then there is around a tenure of like 3 months in which the existing president stays the president, right? And then there's this whole change of this position, this command, right? So in this whole tenure, if the president resigns, the situation can go awkward. The vice president is there. How bad impact such situation would have on the elections they have happened recently?
Well, I mean, this is a kind of a nightmare scenario for everybody in the U.S. and probably even internationally, because what you could have happen is after the election, let's say that President Trump loses and Joe Biden wins. Well, President Trump will remain the president after November 3rd until January 20th. So we're talking about close to 4 months where Donald Trump is then a lame duck president. What is he going to do in that amount of time? Will he resign? What if there becomes some sort of criminal case put against him? Remember, the president, can only be charged with high crimes and misdemeanors. In other words, the crime has to be incredibly severe if you're going to charge a sitting president with a crime. But once they leave office, they're fair game just like anybody else. And there's been a lot of suggestion that perhaps Donald Trump had committed fraud, had committed tax fraud, tax evasion, all sorts of stuff in New York City through his real estate investments. And that's something that is being looked at by the Southern District of New York. And so there is a theory out there that perhaps President Trump, when he's no longer president, could be jailed, could be charged with a crime, but he could get out of it if he were to resign shortly after losing. Vice President Mike Pence would then become president of the United States and could pardon President Trump for any past and present crimes that he had committed. In fact, this is more than a hypothesis. Even President Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, who had since kind of turned on Trump and went to jail for felony as well. Michael Cohen had also said that as Trump's former attorney, he advises the president to resign if he loses, so he gets pardoned and does not go to jail.
But Trump has a history of, having these allegations, lots of allegations about his businesses, lots of allegations about his, things he has done economically just to benefit his own businesses. So Trump, I think, is not really out of the hot waters. He is in hot waters, and he's going to definitely face this. He stays the president or he does not stay the president. So I myself see the poll says that he is not really, in a safer zone. How do you take this?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think eventually he's going to have to face the music. If he is elected again or if he loses, because at some point he's no longer going to be president of the United States. Now, the election law is it's very convoluted in the United States because the president could also potentially pardon himself. But that's something that I'm sure Congress would take umbrage with and would create, a big maelstrom in controversy in the United States if President Trump were to do that. But we all know that Trump is not your ordinary president and is really capable of doing almost anything extraordinary.
So you think Trump can pardon himself from whatever he has done?
But that's one of the hypotheses put out there by a lot of constitutional scholars, is that yes, President Trump could potentially pardon himself, but if that were to happen, I'm sure he would face some sort of a legal challenge.
What kind of challenges, Joe, Trump administration faced? There were like multiple things on which he faced the challenges, but one of those prominent things is the tax cuts, right? And the other thing is the jobs. He offered lots of jobs, and then the COVID came and everything. But this COVID is here like 6 months ago, maybe 7 months ago. The situation is deteriorated right now in U.S. Based on these two things. How and what kind of backlash Trump going to have in these elections based on these two things?
Well, Trump's having a big backlash. The polls show that the majority of Americans do not trust President Trump when it comes to handling the coronavirus. And, we see that because America is going through what they're calling now a third wave. And so this winter could be a very brutal winter for the United States. You have the coronavirus surging, then you have the flu. It's possible to get the flu and the coronavirus at the same time. And so, certain states or cities could be looking at going into a second lockdown. I know, for instance, in Illinois and even Chicago, they're looking at potentially shutting down restaurants again. And they are shutting down restaurants in certain counties in the state of Illinois. So this is having a tremendous impact on jobs. And President Trump campaigned and has been campaigning during 2020 as being a jobs president. In 2016, he said, quote, I will be the best jobs president God had ever created.
Really?
That's exactly what he said. And I'm not sure that that he actually came through on that promise yet.
You were his advisor. What did you advise him?
I didn't advise him on that one. We talked about. I mean, I tried to advise the White House more immigration matters, but when it came to the jobs issue,
You said it's not my piece of cake.
well, I think he was mostly shooting from the hip. He was probably shooting a little bit too far on that one.
Right. Okay. So there's another debate going on in U.S. and it's going on since long, and that is about a very serious matter, and that is the gun laws. So tell us more about what is the situation right now about the gun laws. We've seen lots of protests as well, lots of news as well, lots of commentaries on these gun laws, and it looks like that whoever is holding these guns is right, and whoever is not holding is also right. And the other point, it looks like both are wrong. So tell us, what is the picture on ground right now, and what both administrations, have done so far about these laws, because the situation in the U.S. is not really good. We've seen lots of news, we've seen lots of incidents, about these, gun being fired by lots of, disturbed people in different places around the U.S., some shopping malls, some schools, and places like this. So how and what extent these presidents going to take this issue?
Well, let's start with President Trump. President Trump wants to protect gun laws. He wants to make sure that every American can own a firearm. He's for concealed carry, which is basically when a person can conceal a firearm on their person with a permit of some kind in public and what have you. He's not for banning assault-style weapons from the streets or automatic weapons, but Joe Biden is. And that goes back to the Obama administration, when Joe Biden was President Obama's vice president. President Obama made it his mission, and he said so during his presidency, to try to get these assault-style weapons, these military-grade weapons, off of the streets, out of the hands of gangsters, make it so that children can't get a hold of them, out of the hands of people who aren't sane enough, to handle a firearm. And that's the reason Obama made that such a mission for him, is because during his presidency, he saw so many mass shootings. And he said he had to go to so many funerals of children who perished in these terrible mass shootings at schools, in public, at churches, synagogues, mosques, everywhere in the United States. It was kind of this explosion of hate that occurred, and a lot of the shootings occurred. So during that period of time, Joe Biden was vice president, had to stand by Obama's side, and also made it kind of a touchstone issue of his to make sure that gun reform gets passed, that these military-grade weapons, stay out of the hands of people who don't need them, or basically, just are off the market altogether. Because right now, as it is in the United States, in certain states, you can buy an assault-style rifle. You can buy a military, automatic machine gun at some of these gun shows. And who knows what's going to happen. People can say they're going to use that as a collector's item or what have you, but we know that very often that's not the case, and it gets in the hands of somebody who doesn't need it. Bottom line on this one is that Trump wants to keep the gun laws as they are. Joe Biden wants to reform the gun laws so that you keep those really kind of nasty assault rifles, really kind of dangerous weapons out of the hands of people that shouldn't have them.
Joe, what do you think? You also, roam around with and meet different people around, the U.S., the local people. What is the sentiment of local people there about this gun laws? Because whatever I've studied, whatever I've seen, people are not really for gun laws. They don't really want to carry the guns, but the situation is not really super cool there in the U.S. Like, you have lived in Chicago, I've been to Chicago as well. So the south part of Chicago is disturbed, right? There are lots of problems here. I was also advised not to go there alone, right? So I didn't go. My point is that people are not safe there. So is this the right way to carry a gun and to protect yourself?
Well, I mean, that's one of the constitutional. It's a constitutional law. I mean, it's that every American has the right to defend themselves, the right to bear arms, and so, yeah, I mean, if somebody breaks into your house in the middle of the night and you go to call the police, are the police going to get there in about 5 to 10 minutes and save you from being killed by somebody who has an assault rifle? I'm not sure that's going to happen. So that's one of the arguments that a lot of people that are for that are against like gun reform, that's one of the arguments that they use, is that we need to have these weapons to protect ourselves. Okay, that's fair, but do you need to have automatic assault style weapons to defend yourself in your home? Do you need that level of machinery? So it is a very complicated issue, and it oftentimes becomes an emotional one, because there are situations where somebody may be carrying a firearm on their person.
So, Joe, you don't think so that the U.S. government, this or the previous governments, they should have worked more on the legislation? Like, for example, the person who's breaking in your house has an automatic weapon, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you work on saving those weapons from those people? I mean, why don't these laws apply that no one can get hold of any weapon either on any side, the one who's breaking in and one who's been breaked, right? So there should be no gun in U.S. So there's no good cop, bad cop thing there.
I mean, that's a great point. Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is those assault-style weapons should not be on the streets, period. Why does anybody have that kind of machinery on them? They're not going to go hunting deer with an automatic rifle. I mean, I guess you could, but do you need to? So I mean, that's one of the common sense issues that someone like a Joe Biden has been trying to outline to people, and other people who are really big gun proponents. And the NRA, the National Rifles Association, says, you'll pry my gun out of my cold, dead hands. They want their weapons, they want their guns, and there's nothing you can do to stop them from getting them.
Right. Okay. So let's move to the education side. Trump administration, they have faced lots of issues, and one of the biggest issues they faced is about the economic imbalance. I'll come to that in a bit, but before that is the education stuff, right? The education which random American is getting and the education which the international students are getting in U.S. is a little bit upset. Tell me, can you please expand more on this education side and letting us know that what Trump administration have done in this education sector and how this is going to, benefit him, dent him in this upcoming elections in this process?
Well, I think the biggest issue right now when it comes to education, and it's a very controversial issue, is whether or not to reopen schools. And I know this is an issue that Pakistan is dealing with as well because of the coronavirus. Remote learning. Is it working? Are students becoming discouraged? Are they even engaged because they're using Skype or Zoom or what have you and kind of working remotely from their laptops? President Trump has said that he wants to basically flip a light switch and put all the students back in the classroom. He says it's time to get the kids back in the classroom, time to start learning that essentially, young people are less at risk at getting and becoming sick from the coronavirus. So let's just get the kids back at school.
And then at the same time, CDC says kids are one of the biggest reasons of carrying the coronavirus from one place to the other. They're the biggest carriers. So anyways,
exactly.
We'll continue more on this. It's time for a break. We're going to go for a break. एक ब्रेक की जाने पड़ते हैं. ब्रेक से वापस आएंगे, गुफ्तगू को आगे बढ़ाएंगे. Take a break. वेलकम बैक आफ्टर द ब्रेक. प्रोग्राम में हम बात कर रहे हैं अमरीकी इंतखाबात के हवाले से जो 3 नवंबर को होने जा रहे हैं, और ये जानने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि अमरीकी इंतखाबात किस तरह होते हैं, और जब ये हो जाएंगे जो सदर अमरीका का मुंतखब होगा वो पाकिस्तान के साथ किस किस्म के ताल्लुकात बना कर रखेगा, अभी किस किस्म के ताल्लुकात हैं, और जो सदर अभी हैं डोनाल्ड ट्रंप, उन्होंने किस किस सेक्टर पर किस किस तरह काम किया अपनी मुल्क के लिए, अपनी कौम के लिए, और वो इन रिटर्न उसको रिस्पॉन्स किस तरह करें. हमारे साथ प्रोग्राम में मौजूद हैं जो गोमेज, सीनियर एनालिस्ट हैं, जर्नलिस्ट भी हैं, اور اوباما ایڈمنسٹریشن اور ٹرمپ ایڈمنسٹریشن ان دونوں کے ساتھ کام کر سکیں. ان کو امیگریشن پالیسیز کے اوپر جو ہے وہ ایڈوائز کرتے آ رہے ہیں, اور اب بھی ریسنٹلی ڈیموکریٹس جو ہے ان کو جو بائیڈن کی جو پارٹی ہے اس کو ایڈوائز کر رہے ہیں امیگریشن پالیسیز کے اوپر. سو گومیز, let's talk more about the manifestos, the plans both sides have for their people, which they are going to sell in this election, let me just say. So can you help us expand on the plans they both have, and which you think is a better plan, which is the need of the hour?
Well, let's start, with the coronavirus and kind of restoring the economy. That's the number one issue for both Joe Biden and President Trump. But they have different approaches in how to do that. So with Trump and with the Republican Party, their plan is basically to implement massive tax cuts and also provide some kind of a stimulus for businesses, because they believe that if you provide tax cuts to the wealthy and boost the spending or give businesses a little bit of a stimulus, that they can then hire employees and get people back to work. Joe Biden and the Democrats, on the other hand, kind of approach this from a different way. They want to provide a stimulus boost to individuals, and so they want to kind of lift that welfare safety net, because they don't believe it's safe yet to return to work. And some jobs have vanished altogether. You have restaurant jobs that have vanished altogether in some cases. Some restaurants have closed for good. There have been layoffs with different sorts of airlines, for example. So there are two ways to approach this issue. Do you implement tax cuts? Do you focus on businesses and big business? Or do you help individuals? Do you help the poor? Do you try to protect these people until coronavirus is passed and it's time, and then you can basically return to work? So there's two different approaches to how to restore the economy, and that's what everybody's kind of focusing on at the moment.
Who do you think has a better plan to restore the economy?
Well, I would say that it seems to me that the Democrats have the best plan, and it makes the most sense because it's science-driven. I mean, you can't just wish away the coronavirus. This is something that it's going to have to be fought through science to overcome. And that's something that Joe Biden has made it clear from the beginning, that he's on the side of science. And so why risk your life to go work at a job that's going to pay you, maybe $10 an hour? That's something in the United States that Biden has said is ridiculous. You shouldn't have to risk your life to go to work. That shouldn't even come into the equation. So what he would like to do is pay people to stay home, be safe, make sure that they have money to feed their families until it's time to go back to work. That way, everybody stays afloat. It's something that even Wall Street now thinks could be a good thing for the economy. And the stock market in the U.S. Has been bouncing on the hope that there could be a blue wave and a Democratic sweep in 2020.
Democratic sweep in 2020. Okay, let's talk a bit more about the relations of U.S. with other countries. We did talk about the U.S. relations with the South Asian countries, but before going on that again, let me just ask you that, all of those countries which are the developing countries, they look up to lots of, help from the developed countries. One of the biggest thing is the economic aid they expect in return. They help them in their problems, like Pakistan did help U.S. since long after 2001, and whatever has happened, the world knows, in the war against terror. And for that, we didn't really ask for the help. It was the cost was too much. But which administration has a better plan, the better economic plan, the aid plan for Pakistan, number one, and for the other developing countries?
Well, again, I would say that Biden and the Democrats would probably have the better plan. The reason being is because Biden has made it clear that he would be more of kind of a liberal internationalist and try to restore a lot of those alliances and a lot of that credibility that Trump has seemed to diminish. Trump, from the very beginning, said that he was going to be focused firstly on America, that America should not be focused on helping other countries, that they should be focused solely on themselves. Why give all this money to other countries like Pakistan, or why help Afghanistan, or why keep troops in Germany, why keep troops in South Korea, all of this. Trump has said he just wants to focus on America, and that's it. And that nationalist message seemed to work for him in 2016. But this time around, it seems to be backfiring on him a little bit. So already you have Democrats saying that if there was going to be some sort of large economic stimulus package passed, which they're trying to get done in Congress, and they'll probably pass another one again if they do sweep both houses in the White House, that they would include in that stimulus package international aid, including aid to Pakistan that would be non-military assistance, that would be medical aid to help combat the coronavirus, among other things.
What if the nationalist thing work again and the world and the rest of the Americans, see Donald Trump again sitting in the office?
Well, that would be, that would shock me for sure. I would be very surprised, I guess. But I don't know how that would work out for the world. I mean, we've already seen, Trump doesn't really get along with a lot of world leaders. It seems that he really kind of gets along with more authoritarians. And he's even said so to various journalists like Bob Woodward of the Washington Post, that he gets along with more authoritarians than other democracies. So let's hope that doesn't happen. At least I do, anyways.
That doesn't happen. Okay. Joe, let me just ask you a common question. When the administration changes, there's an understanding that the foreign policies do change. But is there always a big shift in the foreign policy of the United States? Or the bigger shift, the bigger policy remains the same, there are always minor changes? How it operates, because there's another school of thought which says that once the administration changes, that doesn't make any difference. If it's US with Afghanistan, with Iran, with China, with any country of the world, the bigger policy will remain as it is. There will be minor changes. How true is this thing?
Well, I think that Trump has proven that it's not very true in his case anyways, because Obama was a president that really reached out to his international allies and really tried to provide a lot of relief and be a world leader. Trump was focused solely on the United States. You want to talk about, just how drastically he changed things. I mean, he went through, I think about, 3 national security advisors, 1 secretary of state. In his first term, he fired several ambassadors many times over. He really just kind of scrapped the Iran nuclear deal, among other things. Said he was going to pull out troops from Afghanistan by Christmas of this year. So he really poured gasoline on a fire that he built himself when it comes to changing foreign policy for the United States. I'm not sure how far he can go if he gets reelected, but I can tell you that Biden will probably go in the opposite direction fairly quickly.
How do you see the relations of North Korea with the U.S.?
Well, I think the relationship with North Korea, between the United States and North Korea, hasn't really been a substantial one anyways. I mean, it's all been for show. President Trump has had these summits with Kim Jong-un, and these summits haven't developed anything. I mean, it's all been for the cameras. I know they signed something in Singapore when they met, but it wasn't anything of substance. I mean, North Korea still has its nuclear capacity. It's still testing nuclear weapons. Donald Trump, had received some lovely love letters, as he said, from Kim Jong-un, but that's about it. I mean, I don't know that Trump really changed the game with North Korea. It's always been this sort of idea to just kind of keep North Korea isolated. Don't give Kim Jong-un the sort of attention that he seems to thrive and put him on a national stage like President Trump did. So if anything, perhaps he went a little bit backwards when it comes to North Korea.
Okay, let's go to the other side of the world. Iran, you've spoken about it. The situation with Iran is so tense, and it has been tense in the recent past when the killing of the general there, and that whole thing that has done a lot of damage to both sides, I would say, to Iran as well and to the United States. Trump has been very aggressive with them. There were no talks, there were no improving of the relations between both countries before, even after the incident that has happened. How bad it gonna hit this administration?
Well, let's say if there's a Joe Biden administration, they're going to basically have to start from scratch when it comes to, or if they want to restore the Iranian nuclear nuclear pact to try to reduce the chances that Iran's going to create some kind of a nuclear weapon. Yeah. With President Trump, it seems like he's going to be a lot more hawkish with Iran, though he has shown at least some restraint there. I think he understands that, you know, with Iran, you are literally playing with fire. He said he does not want to start another war. He doesn't want to be a wartime president. And I think that frightens a lot of people. The idea that perhaps he could start a war. So, but regardless of if it's a Joe Biden presidency or a Trump presidency, they're both going to have to approach the topic of Iran very sensitively, and that's going to require a lot of work on both sides.
Right. So, of course, it's the people of U.S. who are definitely going to decide who will be the president. But the people of U.S. has, majority of lots of people from different nations, right? And out of which there is a huge number of Muslims there. We've seen, and we've seen those news as well. We've also witnessed some of the incidents as well, where there's a clear problem between the Americans, the nationalist Americans, I would say, and the Muslims there. And there's a lot of other Muslims which are okay with whatever is going on, and they haven't been touched maybe on this issue, but there is a clear problem. Which Muslim community, definitely out of that, there's a greater number who's going to vote for any president. So which president has a better understanding of the Muslims and has better relation with the Muslims, and who do you think Muslims are going to vote for? Majority of them.
Well, I think the polls have indicated that most Muslims, the Muslim community in the United States, is going to vote democratically, and that Joe Biden has made it a concerted effort to reach out to the Muslim community in the United States, starting with his Ramadan message, which he sent out. He made a special video message to the Muslim community during Ramadan, and he also, this is quite interesting, in the first presidential debate, used the word inshallah. Yeah. When President Trump said he was going to release his tax returns, Biden said inshallah. And so it was just kind of a nod to the Muslim community. One, that he even knew what inshallah meant, I guess, but also that he understands how important the Muslim community is going to be in the future. So I think the Biden administration, should there be one, would be very sensitive to a lot of discrimination that is occurring against Muslims in the United States, trying to tamp down white supremacism, and trying to make it so that everybody can be free to practice the religion without fear of retaliation or without fear of being subject to violence.
Chinese are in U.S. and some of them are there since decades. Which administration is handling Chinese better? Because there's lots of problem going on between China itself, and there's no problem going on with Chinese there, but the sentiment is always there, right? Because the people of China are living in U.S., they're U.S. national now, but their heart is maybe still with Beijing. So which administration is going to have better score on this Chinese community?
Well, I mean, this is a tough one, because Trump has shown some success in the polls when it comes to handling China. Trump has maintained that China has been ripping off the United States, and that he's going to make it so that everything's fair and even between the U.S. and China, that China's been ripping off the United States on trade. He's trying to paint Joe Biden as being weak on China. And that messaging that Trump has been using against Biden has really kind of worked. And the reason I say that is because Biden is also coming hard against China when it comes to trade. He's also saying that he would like to renegotiate the United States trade deal with China. So China is going to be, one of these big issues during the election and then after the election. How each president is going to handle China. But we've already seen that President Trump thinks that he can kind of handle China like it's some sort of business matter. And I think that Joe Biden, having been the veteran diplomat and also the veteran politician, is going to handle this a bit with more kid gloves and treat it with the sensitivity that perhaps it deserves. But there's one thing that's clear, and that's, when it comes to China, Americans feel that the United States should be a bit tougher on China, and that's something that you have to give President Trump credit for, getting that message across and getting a lot of people on his side when it comes to China with.
Right. So the last question to you. Whichever the administration wins, if it's Democrats or if it's Republicans, Pakistan needs to, deal with them and deal with them in a better way. You understand the Pakistan's diplomatic front, and you're also advising them on lots of other things related to this as well. So help us understand which administration, Democrats or the Republicans, which is better for our administration here?
I mean, it's my opinion that Joe Biden would be the better friend to Pakistan. Joe Biden has already visited Pakistan a few times in the past as vice president of the United States. He helped to pass a relief bill to Pakistan, about like $7.5 billion relief bill during the Obama administration. He's made it clear that in Kashmir, he'd be more sensitive to the human rights issues that are going on. So I think that the Democratic Party, that Joe Biden would be a lot more sensitive to Pakistan. Now, President Trump has made a lot of promises to Pakistan as well. And he's also said that in the past that he would give Pakistan a lot of help when it came to the coronavirus. That help never really materialized. So when it comes to Pakistan, one thing's for sure, it's been a long time United States ally. It's been an important ally. Pakistan has been the front line of defense when it comes to fighting the war on terror. And the United States desperately needs to keep Pakistan as an ally. Now, who will be the better president at keeping Pakistan as an ally and helping Pakistan? I guess that'll be up to American voters to decide.
Right, that'll be up to American voters to decide. That's all from the program. بہت شکریہ جی. وقت ختم ہوا چاہتا ہے. ہم گفتگو کو یہاں پہ ختم کریں گے اور اس نوٹ پہ ختم کریں گے. جو امریکی انتخابات ہیں 3 نومبر کو جو ہونے جا رہے ہیں, جس میں امریکی عوام امریکی صدر کا انتخاب کرے گی, اور وہ صدر ان کا اور امریکہ سے باہر جو باقی ممالک ہیں ان کے ساتھ تعلقات کو بہتر بنانے میں یقیناً کوشش کرے گا, جس میں ایک ملک پاکستان بھی ہے. سو پاکستان کہ امریکہ سے تعلقات کس سطح کے ہوں گے یہ آنے والا وقت بتائے گا. بٹ امریکی انتخابات اور امریکی صدر, امریکی ایڈمنسٹریشن پاکستان میں ایک اہم رول رکھتے ہیں, ایک اہم کردار ادا کرتے ہیں. امریکہ اور پاکستان کے تعلقات, افغانستان کے پروسیس میں پاکستان نے امریکہ کو جتنا ہیلپ کیا ہے, شاید اتنا ہیلپ کبھی کسی پچھلی حکومت نے نہیں کیا جو عمران خان کی حکومت نے کیا ہے. آنے والا وقت ہی بہتر بتائے گا کہ یہ تعلقات کیسے ہوں گے اور صورتحال کس جانے پڑے گی. پروگرام کا وقت ختم ہو جاتا ہے. اپنا خیال رکھیے گا. اللہ حافظ.